All right. All right, tell us who you are.
I'm Nornie. I'm the girls' great-grandmother. And I have enjoyed so much of them. And I miss them. But I'm going to get together with Denise this summer. We're going to be going different places, so I will get to see you all more. And you know how much I miss you. And you have to tell me things so I can get smart. I need to get smart. You need to educate me. I haven't had you all to tell me what's right and what's wrong. I can tell you, but you have to tell me. I have to learn from you. Teachers learn more from their students than they teach their students, so you have to teach me. And I just love you all so much. And I pray for you every night like you pray for me every night. And remember, we need God, don't we? And God's always with us, and God will always help us. All we have to do is ask. And if we don't get what we ask for, what did I tell you? God knows better, and it's not the right thing for us to have. Maybe we couldn't handle it, or maybe He's got something better in mind. So we just have to ask God to send us a flood of favors. Love you.
Okay, tell us something about when you were a teacher.
When I was a teacher, I loved teaching. And basically, most of my students loved me. And I always took home a problem that happened in school, which they say you should never do that. But I would think it over, and sometimes the way I thought the outcome should have been wasn't. So I'd talk it over with the student the next day. We'd have a little conference, not in front of the other kids, just us. And we always came to a good ending. Now, when I was sick, I had put teaching for quite a while. And you will be surprised who called me the most. The boys did. I had more boy students call me than girl students. Is that telling me something? The girls didn't like me. But I loved every one of them. And it was a lot of fun. And I loved, as you all know, I love Vacation Bible School. I was more excited than the kids were about it. I love my CCD classes. They were so much fun. And you know that because you all went to them. You had a good time. We just dearly love St. Elizabeth. But now we have to grow and we have to go to different places. But we have to remember what the most important thing is. It's God.
Tell us about your faith in God.
My faith in God, that is the best gift God ever gave me, was my faith in Him. We can't do anything without God. With God, we can do anything. He's our strength. He's the one. He's the boss. Some people might think they're the boss, but they're not. God is. God's the boss. Don't tell them. They'll find out soon enough. God is our boss, and He tells us the right thing to do and the wrong. He gives us our free will. I mean, He doesn't make us do these things. He tells us what's right and wrong, and then He lets us choose. So we got a lot of responsibility there, don't we? That's a long word, and it really takes us a lot of thinking. And you know what I found out? If you really have to think about if something's right or wrong, it's wrong. Because you will absolutely know it's right. You won't have to think about it. So then you just change your mind. And what everybody else does, you let them do. But you follow God. He's the main guy. Love you.
Okay. So how did you learn about God? When do you first remember learning about God?
Well, I always went to church every Sunday with my mom and dad. I went all through Catholic school, all through grade school, all through high school, and partly college. When the money ran out, I couldn't go, so I didn't go anymore. But I learned through God through my parents and my grandparents. I can remember my three grandparents that lived with us. It was my great-grandmother, my grandmother, and my great-aunt. And I can see them right now, all lined up, all three of them lined up in their rocking chairs saying their rosary. They said 3 rosaries a day for the people in the purgatory, the one that needed their prayers the most, and I could still see them all lined up. I was taught my religion from the time I knew what it was. And if you didn't go in our house, if you didn't go to church, you didn't go out. If you didn't go to school, you didn't go out. I mean, we had some very strict rules, but it made a better person out of me. Maybe they should go back to that. What do you think? What do you think?
So tell us about your family.
I had a very loving family. My mother had 5 sisters, and her mother died when she was in the 8th grade. And the youngest of her sisters, she had 4 sisters, the youngest of her sisters was 2 years old. So she had to quit school to take care of them. She lived with her dad, and they all had to grow up faster than they really needed to grow up, but they had to take care of the family. So her aunt, her dad's sister, came 3 times a week and helped my mother. She kept house. The 2 older ones worked to bring money in. And the mother took care of the house. And then that's what made them so close. They were a very close-knit family. We always lived very close, like 2 blocks away from one another, even growing up. So all my cousins were like my sisters and brothers. We had a very loving family. We got to go to the bingo with our mothers every once in a while. And if they won, we would stop by and get a sandwich on the way home. But if they didn't, we didn't get one. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And my mothers and her sisters and my mother worked at school like I did. I was brought up like that. We worked at church and school. That was our social life. That was our social life. And all of our neighbors, most of them went to the same church. And we were family. Our neighborhood was family. We were very helpful to one another. And that's how I was brought up, so that's the way I was. So I just had a wonderful family. And that's what made me so close to my children and so close to my nephews, because that's the way it was. You're supposed to take care of one another.
How'd you meet Pam?
Well, I was coming home from playing tennis one Saturday. And was I ever a mess? I had my shoes off. I had walked all the way from Shawnee Park because I had played tennis all day. And I had my racket in my hand, and the girl across the street had some friends on her porch. And she hollered, "Norma Jean, come here, I want you to meet somebody." And I thought, oh my heavens, I'm dirty, I'm sweaty, I don't need to go over there and meet anyone. And one of those people were Pam. And he said, "I'm going to marry that girl." Of course, he didn't say it to me, because that wasn't in my mind. And I said, so he asked, they were going to go somewhere, and her mother and dad, they were going to go to the park. They're going to have a hot dog roast. And her mother and daddy and another one of the girls' parents were going to go to chaperone. And they wanted to know if I could go. Well, I didn't want to go. I was tired. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I can't go. I already have something to do. And the something to do was take a hot bath and go to bed. I was tired. I wasn't really taken in with Pam at first. He was a very nice-looking young man. But I wasn't taken in with boys, really. They didn't interest me too much. Because as far as I was concerned, they wanted their own way. They were loud. They were It just wasn't my cup of tea. But then I did go out with him, and as I went out with him, the more I went out with him, the more I liked him. And of course, he strictly did not act himself. He acted like he was a very good young man. And we all know he wasn't, don't we? But I fell in love with him, and then we got married.
So tell us about your wedding.
Oh, we had a small wedding because my parents couldn't have afforded a wedding. So it was just our family. It wasn't a big wedding at all. And it wasn't a reception or anything. We didn't have the money for that.
So then you just got married and you started your life.
We got married at the church. We got married at the church, and then he went to work because he just had got a job. He went to work after we got married because he was afraid he'd lose his job.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he, by the way, he went to work on St. Patrick's Day. And he had looked for work 3 months because he had gotten out of the service.
Yeah.
And he had looked for work for 3 months, and he could not find anything. So he finally got a job. So he was afraid that he would lose his job if he didn't show up for no reason.
Right.
You know. So he went to work.
So you got married on St. Patrick's Day?
On St. Patrick's Day.
Which is today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
We were married 60 years.
Wow.
It would have been 60 years like in 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what about your children?
My children.
Yeah, tell us about...
Well, I had a Sherry who, really I felt sorry for the child because I feel sorry for all first children because the mother is afraid of their kids. And I was young, so everybody was telling me everything I did was wrong anyway. So I told my pediatrician, I took her to her pediatrician, and Dr. Gladwell said, don't get upset with what, and I told him I feel terrible. I don't know how to take care of everything I do. They tell me it's wrong. He said, you know, you've got a good mind, and you know that what you're doing is not wrong. And if you have a question, you call me. So he and I brought Sherry out of childhood, thank goodness. But she was a very sweet, loving child. I held her on my hip, for 2 years because I didn't want her to cry. It didn't seem to hurt her too bad, but it wasn't a good thing, that's for sure. And then after she was 5 years old, Pam and I decided it was time to have another baby. So we had another baby. And then, of course, he was disappointed because he wanted a boy. And I said, God's not going to send you a boy, Pam. You were too mean. He's not going to send you a boy because you would be the one bringing him up more than me. He's going to send me a girl. So I had another girl. So 4.5 years later, we decided to have another baby. And it was another girl. And then he said third time was charm. Well, it wasn't. We had another girl. So he said, that's it. No more kids. But we had a very happy life with them.
What did you like about being mom?
Oh, I love being a mom. Only teaching was next to being a mom. Taking care of them, teaching them, fixing their best food, having their friends over, making them treats, taking them to the park. I love being a mom. So.
What about being a grandma?
Love being a grandma. That's even better than a mom. Being a grandma because you're not responsible for everything they do, and you don't have to tell them no. You're a grandma. You can do whatever you want with them, and then you can say, "Oh, you poor little thing, you did this." You don't have to correct them. I mean, it's wonderful. It's too bad you couldn't be a grandma and then a mom.
So what would you say to these girls, to your children, to the boys, to everybody? If you give them 3 things that they should do in life, what should they do?
I think the most important thing is to keep God in mind. Keep what I felt like when I married Ham. The most important thing for me to do was to help him get to heaven. That was my job, to help him get to heaven. I think the most important job for us, for you, would be to remember God gives us our life, and then I've always said, what you make out of your life, that's your gift to Him. So you have to do something with your life. Don't throw your life away. Do what you think God wants you to do. And I think the second thing is, don't be a I person, me person. You have to care what the other people need and what they want. Not so much what you want and what you, because that just doesn't get it. God was not like that, and He doesn't want us to be like that. And then at the very end, there are going to be mistakes made, and just remember, we all make mistakes. And be a forgiving mother, be a forgiving wife, be a forgiving person, because God is to us. If we don't forgive, God won't forgive. So this is the way it is.